Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. It's JosieCat79 here, aka Chris, with my usual co-host Eric, aka darkneon. Yeah, yeah, and we're doing another rambling live thing. Yeah, yeah. I just, yes. I did plan to do this a little earlier, but I did catch a bit of the weather uh things going on. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to get together, and I know that probably don't have the biggest of audiences right now, but we just really do this for ourselves, and this is the easiest way to get this video saved. Speaking of other things that need to be saved and get ready, those things are pretty much almost ready to roll. I think I'll have them roll out within a steady lock within the week. Get festive. Think of them as little presents, so to speak. Uh, Especially with artwork by this guy. I'll tell you that right now. I loved cleaning up some of them, and the ones I've sent him made him go like, "Did I draw that? Like, yeah, you drew that," and I just helped kind of enhance it a little. But it is like 80 to 90% all your art. The only thing I added was the color and my type, my sensibilities when shading. Other than that, it's mostly like you're the blueprint, which is a good way to segue into what we're talking about today. Because as we all know, I'm not now. If I were to ask you 13 years ago, I say the name James Cameron, what would you think? Good. Now, I bet you if you were to say that same name today, everyone would be like, "Oh yeah, he was the guy that made those cool movies for a while. Then he went deep sea diving for a long time. Then he came back and was obsessed with this one idea, this one movie that he's been making for what almost feels like decades at this point for some people." This was actually supposed to be the movie he wanted to do after Titanic back in '96, but even he knew the technology would not just get to where he wanted to because, as we all know, James Cameron is an artist, and as an artist, he has that little bit of a perfectionist streak where it has to be fine tuned to the way of his sensibilities that he'd be able to be pleased with other artists. He's not worth doing for him. Oh yeah, no. He's within range, but I mean, he has a no BS attitude. Like, okay, so I'm sure as many of you remember, but so for those of you too young, James Cameron, Canadian filmmaker that got a start on Corman movies, being an art director, moving up until chain before he got to direct his own movie. Uh, Ended up making it big when he made a splash with his Terminator movie, the story about a robot assassin that came back from time to murder a mother of the future, innocent waitress in the name of Sarah Connor, being protected by a soldier from the future as well. So that was a good way to make splashes because it had a unique look, and he carried a lot of his crew and stuff over from his Corman days, and just made something that really did make a splash. It made a bigger star out of Arnold Schwarzenegger. It gave him one of the most iconic roles. I mean, Linda Hamilton got stardom from this. Hell, even James Cameron had a small appearance as a voice on Sarah's messaging machine that says he can't make it to that date tonight. Yeah, so that led to him getting the gig on Aliens, which he auditioned for earlier, but the studio wasn't ready to commit to him until Terminator had come out. Once that had come out and was actually making money and stuff, Fox said, "Okay, we'll give you another look," because he had written a script. Yeah, he wrote a script that he had been sitting on for like 7 years at that point. And he said that even Gail Ann Hurd said, "They told us something we never heard another studio say to us. We will wait." Because we kept saying, like, "You gotta get this going." Like, "No, we can't do this. We're already on Terminator right now." I said, "They told us we will wait for you." Even she was like, "That's unheard of. They had that much faith in this guy's script writing that they would wait for him to be free from his other thing before he can even get to this." Like, studios are usually ride or die, and they say, "Hey, if you're not with us, we'll get someone who can't be with us." I mean, unfortunately, look years earlier with the Superman situation with the Salkinds and Richard Donner. So Aliens made an even bigger splash and is always brought up when people like to bring up the sequels versus originals debate. I personally am an Alien guy, but Aliens is great. It's badass. There's so many quotes everybody can say off the back of their hand from it. Yes. And then, pardon me, I'm still drinking. Yeah. So then he ended up getting even bigger and ambitious with his things. He started doing an underwater movie in the abyss, which actually had them like shoot a lot of extensive submersible scenes. Pardon me, just got a water tube, and that also had some visionary effects. There's a scene where the non-biological entities use a water tentacle to kind of probe, like almost like a deep sea camera, but it's just a water tentacle made entirely out of CG, but it had the properties of water. That was ILM and Dennis Muren, and that ended up leading down the road for other stuff. Eventually, leading back to when Cameron came back to one of his biggest successes that everybody loves. The Terminator did say he'll be back, and we got it in T2, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, which is always also considered one of the best sequels versus his original type movies ever. Yeah. Uh, Christian Bale rants aside. Yeah. So the T2 not only brought back the Terminator and made him a hero and made everyone like also introduced new characters like the John Connor protagonist finally being in there, Sarah Connor going through an arc, and the T1000 being a formidable villain. The biggest thing is also induced was blending CG and practical to make a very scary villain in the T1000 and a liquid metal guy that would like melt through the roof or regenerate bullet wounds or like turn his hand into a sword, and all on screen without needing to do the old typical trickery of like stop motion or quick cutaways. So that was Cameron pushing the envelope. I mean, come on, people probably back in their minds got their eyes pop out of their sockets when they saw that fiery explosion, and then they go, "Okay, we got him." Then you just see this silver guy just walking out. Yeah, that and hell, I'm sure people got even more like when he like just drooped himself through the police bars. Yeah, so yeah, point is T2 was not only a big smash hit and it also made people like really go. It just also pushed the industry. That eventually led to Jurassic Park getting made and changing things even further, and then Star Wars and then so on and so forth. So Jim has helped pushing the envelope. I'm not saying he's always the innovator, but the things he does do always tend to be pushing towards the envelope. He made his own special effects company, Hydraulics, and did Lightstorm Entertainment to make a lot of his other projects. He made True Lies, a comedy with Arnold Schwarzenegger, action comedy that featured Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis, and that one was also a very well renowned film. And I actually got to give myself a personal copy. I haven't seen it in years, but it is funny from what I remember. It has the late great Bill Paxton in it too. And then of course, but the biggest hit, the one that would make people can. Oh, he also directed the short for Universal, the 3D Battle Across Time. A lot of those new sequences were directed by him personally, using a big newfangled 3D camera and stuff like that. That's important to remember because of what he'll do down the line. Yeah, but I mean, one of the most iconic images is that endoskeleton turning around, getting hit, and you see like the head like floating in air for a while before coming down. But yes, yeah. So yeah, so Jim has gotten bigger and better. And I mean, it got to the point where he was a name you could bet on. Because back then, you had directors where you heard their name, you had a good feeling of quality. In the '70s, it was like Kubrick and Coppola and Scorsese. Those are the names you'd hear. You go like, oh, that guy would make stuff. You'd see. And then in the '80s, Cameron was that guy, along with a few other action directors. But He's the one that's coming to prominence right now. I know. I'm pretty sure there's. Well, Tony Scott's another great one. But my point is, I'm saying is that he was one of those few directors where you hear his name and you know that you probably be in for something crazy, and that's why people were surprised when his next big project was about the boat that sank in 1912. Oh, and Titanic actually was a good movie. When you actually get to see it, you're like, huh? You get so into it that you forget that these two characters are are actually fictional that were made to go with some of the real name people that you keep asking. Yeah, some of you might be convinced to look back and see if there was like a Rose or a Jack on the manifest, even though that was they were just made for the film because you got into their relationship. Hmm. And then the other thing, oh yeah, he actually went to do to get some new footage of the Titanic for a lot of those modern pictures you see of it. So I mean, he must have had fun with the submersibles in Abyss that he wanted to like actually do a lot of deep sea diving. And Titanic was not only was it a big deal because it blended CG and practical, he also built a almost near full size deck of the Titanic to recreate a lot of scenes. So or have and use miniatures for like when it's out of the water, but look not like a little model. And he actually made this the sinking happen over time rather than most other portrayals which would have it like as soon as it hits the iceberg, it kind of just goes whoop. It's like instantaneous almost. So he actually made it like thrilling. Hmm. It's also it's also one of the longer films he made at that time, but you wonder why? Because well, they're both the movie. Like Godfather was that, Lawrence of Arabia was that, and Titanic was that. Oh, it also had a bitchin' song by Celine Dion. That's you always think of her when you hear this song pop up, and it also for some reason spawned a couple of off-brand bootleg games about it at that exact time, like Titanic and stuff like that. Okay, James. Yeah, James Cameron. I think we kind of have to blame you for that too. But yeah. So now, Titanic would be the last film he would make for a while he would be doing documentaries and stuff. But yeah, as written, he had two projects that he was always in the back of his mind when he was making things. There was this book I loved reading called "The Greatest Sci-Fi Movies Never Made." What's funny about that book now is that a lot of those movies that were never claimed to be never made have now been made in some form. But this is about them as they were happening at the time, and they mentioned James Cameron. They called him. They say how the self-proclaimed king of the world cannot get T3, True Lies 2, or his new original project off the ground. And one of those projects that interested me was one called Avatar, where it said that he would had the idea of like this soldiers and everything going to a planet in space and going into bodies controlled by their minds of the alien natives that they'd be interacting with, and they didn't even say what they'd look like. It just sounded like a crazy idea of whoa. And this would have predated like Matrix with the whole like free your mind and hopping and entering stuff. So if he had released that in the late '90s, I'm pretty sure that would have been another turning point at that time. But alas, the way to make it with effects then would have been way more difficult than it was worth doing, and yeah, CG was still moving around. Yeah, and Weta was around at the time because they were also making the King Kong at the time. Yeah. Hold, okay, hold on a sec, bro. Oh no, no, we're live, we're live. It's just that I'm making sure that we're getting everything. Uh, Apologies, everybody. Hang tight with me. Okay, say something, bro.
Say something.
Okay, I got you. All right, yeah. So, the idea too was that making James Cameron back then it would have been a little bit difficult. Stuff that another thing he was trying to get off the ground was Alita Battle Angel because he loved that manga anime that was inspired by his Terminator of all things. And I mean, he just thought he found the concept interesting, and he'd been trying to make that into a movie for quite a while. And while he was not making movies, he was still being a producing entity. He did like that TV show Dark Angel with Joss Whedon in the enemy, the mutant enemies production. Arg. But so he did stuff in the meantime. But and like I said, James Cameron almost made Spider Man, and even though that ended up not happening, parts from his script ended up being carried over. Notably, the fact that Spider Man actually has organic web shooters that came from Cameron's idea.
And almost at the same time, I'm assuming we're like in the 2000s now, right? Like almost early 2010s.
Yeah.
So there's also this trend apparently that 3D movies are coming back, or like the third time, I believe. Like, first time was like in the 50s, which is like the weird uh, red and blue glasses that everyone always likes to joke about, and that was a hokey like trend, but then it kind of faded out. Then it tried to come back in the 80s. That was weird.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
then it got a real big boom whenever they went like, oh, my mistake. We actually have like a high def way to figure this out,
I think it was
and
those
it was good for a time, and then people started to take advantage of that trend, and then it was just basically just a way to just boost up ticket prices.
yeah, but so I think James Cameron always saw the potential in 3D. Like, says ever since filming Terminator 3D Battle Across Time, that really made him say that'd be cool to like put a full feature experience in. And he began work on Avatar, and because he thought the technology at that point had finally evolved. They'd been evolving the tech and doing tests until he finally thought it got to a point where he's all like, because Weta did a little thing where they would Lightstorm did a thing where there was this test for an animated alien like a little green man type guy interacting with a person but having like realistic facial features like he would react like the actor would. They were like fine tuning that type of mocap thing. And when it got to a test point where he thought, we could probably do something, that's when he finally decided, okay, we're going to make Avatar finally. Because he had
Are
to.
you sure? Are you sure he wasn't convinced that they actually made you like believe you're seeing like a giant monkey interacting with a small human?
That also helped too. Like basically, Weta is the guys he went to for this for sure because of how they did Lord of the Rings and King Kong, and Andy Serkis was like a brilliant guy in those things. Basically, a modern day Lon Chaney, but instead of using horrible prosthetic makeup, he's actually using his body as a way to make these characters come to life. I mean, Gollum and and Kong, are very evocative in our minds because of how well that performance carried over. And the yeah, I think we can also thank Star Wars for that too. With Jar Jar Binks kind of being a sort of semi mocap in that way type thing, and now we get Thanos and Jennifer Walters and Hulk because of these steps made in these type of research and development films.
So then James Cameron decides to put and make this. I'm pretty sure this took a while to
It did.
get off the ground, but
He had
it
to do
managed.
a lot of convincing to the studios. There's a great documentary in the special edition set that says like everything they did to like get up to that point and everything, test and everything.
But yeah, it pretty much made big waters, especially since it was one of the movies that actually did take advantage of the 3D gimmick to its effect instead of just being like a trend getter. And also was, well, for a while it's like it was like this breakthrough thing until people started to notice like, hey, wait a second, this story seems kind of familiar.
Oh yeah, so now the
But
Avatar has
actually, before we proceed, I actually have a question,
yes.
and I'm pretty sure you might. So why did Cameron choose the color blue for the Navi?
I'm pretty sure that's to still give him that non-human look, but still, because now one of the things that you're gonna laugh at this is that they didn't want him to look too cutesy out there, but they you don't want him to look like too foreign that you can't relate to them. Like you don't want him to look too insectoid or too reptilian, because when you start going reptiles, it becomes uncanny. I mean, just look at Kirk Connors as the lizard. It starts getting a little more when that lizard starts looking more like a man. So he, but he didn't want them too cute. He just wanted that a blend where he said, "I want people to look at these things and think I want to be one of those." That's exactly his quote. And
Oh, so it's almost kind of like the opposite of how Chuck Jones decided, like, okay, so what color is a Grinch? And they settled that, okay, so green would probably be like the absolute, like, last thing you ever want to see on a hairy beast.
yeah, just ask the residents of Newville and the mean one.
Well, that was also, uh, I forget one of the reasons, but the funniest reason is that green was the color of most of the worst cars that Chuck Jones ever got.
yeah. So, but I mean, there's a
Oh wait,
whole
no, yeah, no. The green was also because it was like a Christmassy color.
yeah. So yeah, there's an extensive book. There's all this extensive stuff about what went into the design process of everything. But they did a lot of R&D, a lot of sculpt. They actually sculpted the maquettes of what these creatures were going to look like, of what the wildlife was going to look like, the flora and fauna. He didn't want it to look just like, oh, we went out to Brazil or went out to Vietnam and shot somewhere. He wanted to make it feel like you're on another ecosystem. And he has whole dissertations on each of the fauna and the military equipment and everything because he wanted you to say, I want you to take one look at that and think that could probably work. Like, yeah. So it's more than just looking cool for him. He actually wanted to look cool and functional. That was one of his strengths in like movies like Aliens and Terminator. So
So okay, I got another question. Uh, did you feel discouraged about using the name Avatar since it was kind of at the time already kind of taken with some other franchise that was kind
well,
of like a big world building thing?
the thing was that he had it that way since he started that script back in '96, man.
Right. So even when he like pitched it, and did people just go cockeyed like, wait, wait, I thought M Night Shyamalan was doing that.
No, yeah, no,
Like,
that I don't think no such confusion happened, but yeah,
yeah, no, I know why he called it this. Like, it's a Avatar is like a pilot of sorts, but yeah, a pilot of the mind. That's what the term essentially means.
yeah.
But
So yeah, it would take a while before anything would come of that. But yeah, that's why I think the marketing department and the producers made it the point to call it James Cameron's Avatar, so that people know what they're talking about. Which everyone anyway, everyone shorthands both for avatars, and you have to either say it's the one with the one with the martial arts, or the one with the elements, or the one with the blue people. That's the only way you can like really get people to say, "Oh, that Avatar."
So, yeah, that was a lot of build up to get to this.
Yeah, sorry. So Avatar is obviously, it made a big deal in its release back almost 13 years ago because the technology, the experience, the ride of going through it all, the 3D was actually so great that it brought back the trend, only for the trend to blow itself up again due to this oversaturation. But the point is, though, it did a lot to make people say, "You want to go see a hill." There was stories about how Pandora was, became such a favorite place, that people were like disheartened they could never actually go there for real because of how well he made people realize this world building. In fact, that's one of the strongest strengths of this movie is its world building, and that's why the look of it, the design of it, the feel of it, and the logistics of it are all very solid and strong because that's James Cameron's workman attitude and his team going to war and doing this right. That all came together very well for this. Now, where it does get a lot of pushback from people is the story isn't exactly the most complex. The characters are pretty straightforward, which for some people they think that we're in a time of where people need a lot of complex characters or plots that you don't know where they go anywhere sometimes.
Which, like, I get it. It was the 2000s. We were just coming off of like stuff like the Dark Knight, and Inception was coming around at the corner after this. But uh, you'd also have to understand, as us movies fans, we also like to have a little bit of uh, tropey cheese along with the grounded stuff. We need something that actually gets us to feel like these are characters in a story that are engaging with like uh, epic struggles, huge adventures, sweeping like jungle escapes and all that. You know, kind of like the old serials like the Star Wars and Raiders gave us.
hmm But he really he wanted you to know. Like, he kept it simple for a reason because I mean sometimes you get people resonate with love stories. That's what worked with Titanic. People resonate with the ideas of learning from another culture in a way. So that's why they do the whole, you know, stranger in a strange land learns the ways of the fish out of water type thing. We know about at the private militaries becoming a problem where people become guns for hire. So morals are out the window. So you know exactly who to root for. So uh, the corporate guys are always like hard asses about daily quotas and trees and stuff like that. I mean, we see stuff like that in Godzilla movies for crying out loud.
But amidst all of this, I think one story aspect that I don't see a lot of people trying to say, "Oh, they totally copied this from that," is pretty much the whole entire character arc of Jake Sully essentially getting a new lease, a second life to actually live after essentially almost having nothing really to live off of previously. Like, got no legs, his family is pretty much gone. It's like just still having the mind of a soldier, and following orders and all that. But the moment he gets into his avatar body, things start to uh, build and build and build until he realizes that he doesn't feel like he's uh, Jake Sully anymore. Instead, feels more like Jake Sully of the Navi.
Yeah. So
And even to the point where I brought this theory up that kind of took Jonesy a bit is the fact that, okay, so this body. So the reason Jake Sully is on this mission is because it was originally his brother who was like had a PhD and a science degree and all that was supposed to go until some random mugger just jumped him and ended that prospect. But they had already grown this body, and that's like $1 million effort. So instead of it going to waste, since Jake and his brother were twins, he still shared the same chemical patterns. But I feel like it was still made for his brother. So parts of that is when he's piloting the body. I feel like it's almost not only just Jake, but also like some aspects of his brother, uh, opening his eyes a little bit, like giving him more uh, an outsider's perspective on things instead of just the narrow-minded, militaristic mindset.
Well, in a way, Tommy did kind of help open his eyes to things, but I think some people might say that would speculate if the avatars themselves have some imprints of who they were made for. Like it says, I mean, like I'm sure there's some geneticists that'll tell you that identical twins uh, still have some acute differences to not like make that thing work. But it's hand wave because you buy okay, they're brothers. He's dead, but he's not, so he can drive it. So that gets all that icky business out of the way, for, out of the way fast. So that's probably why they did it that way. But that was a good theory when I thought, whoa, how about that? And that the so then, like I said, Sam Worthington plays Jake, and he's just this was when Sam Worthington was really on the rise with a lot of stuff after this movie because they pushed him hard at the next like everyday action man, a la Mel Gibson or Russell Crowe type things. He's an Australian.
Or
Actually,
Bruce Willis.
yeah, it's actually pretty funny because he when he was auditioning and everything, he was still with his Australian accent. So James Cameron's all like, we had to give this stirring speech and not sound like good day. And everyone in the suits are all like, we really want to give the lead role to this guy. They were looking for like a traditional type of, you know, probably a guy. Although a guy at the time probably would do this pretty well with maybe Jake Gyllenhaal. I don't know. I heard that Matt. I heard Matt Damon was actually offered, but he turned it down because he was
Yeah,
stuck
I,
with
I don't
Bourne
I
at the
don't see
time.
Matt Damon doing it.
Because he was stuck with Jason Bourne at the time. Like the commitments just really got in the way. But and he does admit that's one of his like, oops, I turned down Avatar, moments. Everybody has those movies where they say, I turned it down and look back and go, whoa, what was I thinking? But Sam Worthington does a good job. Like, but I said, in order to convince the suits, he actually dressed up Sam in like tribalistic costume outfit and give a speech to a bunch of people. Basically, the "This is our land" speech he gives in the movie, but and even though he was just a regular person, he sold it with such conviction. They thought, okay, that's our guy. Let's give him a little bit of dialogue coach to try to like keep his accent in check. And every now and then his accent would slip through. It's kind of funny, but especially since he does a lot of narrating, and people like to say his Jake is a bit, infantile or a bit bland, but I think he actually goes through quite a nice arc. Because I mean, come on, the guy, had legs. They were shot in war, and when he has the chance to actually run at them, I mean, come on, you can't help but feel the elation when he's like touching the ground, and then he just starts running, and everyone's telling him that he shouldn't run in this new, alien body.
Jarvis, sometimes you gotta run before you can walk.
I think I actually quoted that during our viewing, but yeah, it was. Like, I love when Cameron does little things. He has little details that make the whole thing go wow. For example, when Jake Sully first lands on the planet at Pandora, uh, the he runs across a mech who's like towering over him and tells him to watch it. And then later, when he's running as an avatar, he's like almost eye to eye with the mech, not the same mech, but with a big mech that's now on equal size with him, just to give you an idea of how tall these aliens are.
Yeah, if that wasn't enough to discern that, just look at the merchandise. Like they really had to make like really tall action figures and tall Lego minifigures lately. Like, and I just look at these going like, where the fuck am I even gonna store these guys?
And then they get huge. Like if they made one of Tarak Makto, the Leonectrix, and ooh, that's gonna be a wall hog right there.
Ugh.
But he does a good job of communicating scale and stuff. And the thing is that the avatars are purely digital, but they're based off of performance capture from Sam on the set with Sigourney Weaver, another James Cameron regular, and all this stuff. So they would like record that, edit to that, and give the stuff to a rough animation to Weta to try to. They would animate it roughly based on the raw data of the capture, the little balls and everything. Then if Jim liked the shot enough, he would send it to Weta for final approval, and they would spend the rest of the year just getting that guy up to full rendering so that it's ready by the time the whole movie's cut together. So if you saw like an early cut of Avatar, it would be like actual footage shot in Sydney, of the like the lab or like the bottom of the forest or the bunker lab, and it's cut with like rough model computer animation of like a blue Navi wireframe, interacting with a bat, and then in between those shots there might be a full shot of like the actual eye of the Ikran like dilating. So it was interesting to see the earliest rough cuts where even James like, okay, I might have gotten myself in over my head over this.
Might have gone a little too extreme in places.
There is a funny bit though where, yeah, he one thing that he likes is that he made a camera system that's a rig for his digital stuff. So he would move the camera as if it was his camera with that rig, and in the digital computer world where the stuff is rendering and everything, he would like film it that way. Like he's thinking, I want the angle to come in like this. I want the scorpion to fly in like that. He would do stuff like that. He did make a very funny quip. He says, when I was in pre-production, we'd be doing digital stuff. We'd be taking like 20 guys to move a light. I'm like, if this was real, I would just like reach out and move that light like that. But I have to wait 5 minutes for the computer guys to move it because they have to adjust the settings and everything. And then when they'd be on practical in Sydney, they'd be like hauling in a tree or a giant crate. And he's like, if this was digital, I could just like click and then that crate would be right there rather than me moving the whole thing. So he was joking. When it was digital, I was complaining it wasn't live. When it was live, I was complaining it wasn't digital. And by the time I came back to finish the movie, I just shut up about it. He said,
So yeah, this is I can definitely see like like thinking back a lot of the older CGI movies, they would actually have a lot of static shots. In I think the only one that actually did try to move things about a little bit to be dynamic would be Michael Bay's Transformers. Now I think about it,
"Yeah,
but yeah, but watching this movie on mute while we're doing this, yeah, there's definitely a lot of camera shots going that you could definitely say. Well, I definitely see director like James uh, doing it like that if they were filming live.
yeah."
And
So
then you had to remember that. Oh no, but it's still like uh, the whole world and characters are CG. So how they have to actually plan out what they're seeing, what's in the background, what's like where the lighting should be.
hmm but yeah, Jim's an articulate guy like that, and meticulous. So I mean, I think the big thing about this movie is, Jake is like a blank wood for some people, but that's your protagonist character. Someone said he's like your video game character in a RPG, and he's like the basic character without none of your like inputs.
I mean,
But
I wouldn't say he's bland. Maybe at the start, but like definitely in the middle when you start to realize, like, oh god, I really like. I thought this was supposed to be a simple simple like getting to trust these guys, but this, I don't even know which side I'm supposed to be on right now.
yeah, and so the stronger cast members are like Sigourney Weaver as Grace Augustine because come on, it's Ripley. She loved working with Jim after all these years. In fact, the character was going to be named Doctor Shipley when he wrote the script, but
Oh,
once he cast Sigourney, he said, "Yeah, I'm gonna change it to Augustine now." He said, "Now that you're here," he said. But I think he read it with like a Sigourney Weaver type in mind. He could have had like maybe what's her name? Oh crap, the ancient one, Jadis the White Queen, Tilda Swinton. Maybe it could have been a Tilda Swinton type, or it could have been like a
I can kind of see that.
I don't know. But he in the end he got Sigourney and thought that there we go. That's our Grace. And another strong up character, everyone likes to make fun of this guy, is Stephen Lang as Miles Quartrick, the colonel of the Pandora base, the military bad guy, with the big old gash on
Dude,
his.
that, dude, that's not uh that's fucking Cable.
Well, what's funny is that Stephen Lang was one of the guys that they were considering for Cable before Thanos, Josh Brolin eventually got the job. I'm pretty sure if Stephen Lang did get Cable in Deadpool 2 and Reynolds, I'm sure he would have written in a cheeky Avatar joke somehow. Yeah, believe me, buddy boy, I'm going to use more than two arrows to take your ass out. Something like that. Yeah, and then yeah, what I love him. He just plays them as a straightforward, military guy. Stuff like you're not in Kansas anymore. Everything out there is gonna scratch your eyes. That's the enemy and stuff like that. But he'll say stuff that makes me laugh, like little quick things. He says, "You gotta, this low gravity will make you soft. You gotta like respect the rules, Pandora rules. If you don't, you go soft. Pandora will shit you out dead." Stuff like that.
And oh, we also had a Zoe Saldana, uh, long before she had green skin, shooting around in the skies as like a assassin for hire. She sported blue, right down to the point where most of her she had to like have her mannerisms. I'm I'm miswording it, but like she had to unlearn her posture and mannerisms to get into this role.
Yeah, because she was like still saying, I didn't have to think to walk like like Zoe. You have to think about how the Navi livers. They went to a lot of a rainforest boot camp to like get the feeling of like her and other people were getting like the feeling of how to like move and stuff like that.
And it's and then when you see it in the movie, you actually believe that she's like not even human.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is when she has the accent, she it was her accent they're based off of.
Oh yeah, it was her accent, and then James is like, okay, so now we gotta get the rest of the Navi actors to sound like you.
Yeah. So, because she was, I think she screen tested the best, and that's the one that they like to use. So, and like, just like other people of this craft, James Cameron went through the trouble of getting a linguist and constructing a whole brand new language that would work for this movie, the Navi language. So, like Klingon, like Elvish, you could actually learn Navi. There's actually written stuff out there for learning Navi.
And just recently, they've been created Navi Sign Language, which I actually just only learned how to say thank you in Navi Sign Language.
That is great. So, and it's not just like some random stuff. It's not like you could easily say, oh, that's a Japanese word, that's a Yiddish word. Like they went through trouble making a totally foreign sounding language, but it still sounded like plausible.
And, yeah, you can definitely tell they had to probably. I wonder how the actors had to handle it, or both the Navi and the human actors. Like I'm pretty sure the Navi is like it's second hand because that's all they can say, and then humans like okay, so they got to say both their normal language, but then also mixed in the Navi, and then they
Like you
could
got,
make a mistake and pronounce something wrong.
yeah, like you gotta do the shahelu, the bond, stuff like that. Yeah, and so I think the strength of this movie is how it unwinds. Like first, you get the bleak coldness of space. You get a planet, and you come to the gray, cloudy side of the Hell's Gate, and you get to the Avatar body where color comes in. Then you go riding with the Samson into the jungles of Pandora, and it gets a little more lively. But where it really like, as they described it, the Wizard of Oz opening Finding Oz moment was when after the Viper Wolf attack, those little guys were me and Derek keep on having debates on whether they look good moving or not. Is
No, like yeah, they're better off like not moving at all.
yeah, the Tiri throws out the torch, and that ends up lighting up all the local fauna, and then you're just like, whoa, when it glows at night.
Mhm.
So I just like how it unfolds, and then it becomes a whole learning story where after the clan decides not to kill him, they decide, well, he's a new type of guy. Maybe we should take him at his word to learn, because every time they try to teach people their ways, they seem to know better. So they say it's hard to teach fill a cup that's already full. He's like, oh no, my cup's actually pretty empty. That's Augustine. And he decides to
But
go on.
I was gonna divert to different points. Like, just want to at least say it's amazing how they were able to make like these different type of animals, but also probably toe in the line of say, okay, so this looks like a horse, obviously, so it's meant to act like a horse. But if you pay attention, there's also like an extra foreleg that it has to use, and its face construction almost looks more like an anteater than it does as a horse.
Oh yeah, they might have to make it in a way where you have a shorthand where your mind goes, oh yeah, that's it. That like oh yeah, the viper wolves are hyenas, or the Thanator is a jaguar from hell, but also have its own evolutionary quirks that make sense for the planet.
And banshees are basically gigantic bats out of hell.
Ikrans, the Ikrans, like Zeze. And then the ultimate bat out of hell is the Leoneptrix, the Taruk, the last shadow as they call him. That guy is a
Why do they
color
call it the
feast.
last shadow?
Because it's the last one you'll see before he eats you.
Oh.
But yeah, they even have a whole they even have a whole legend among the people about this great beast that there's only been since the beginning of Pandora 5 times have Navi riders able to bond with the Taruk. They call that one the Taruk Makto, the rider of Last Shadow.
I just this just came to my thought. So are you saying that this Taruk has it's the same Taruk in these legends?
Well, no, because they have the skull of one of them in Home Tree.
Oh yeah. So,
Kind of like
so
the.
this is pretty much the last one. Like in Jedi Fallen Order, where it's like the last Kashyyyk uh, Orshur bird.
No, well, I don't think it's the last. It's just that there's like he's an alpha predator, and he's like the. I think there's like one every other generation, I would guess. But they do stuff like that where they make names for these creatures, and they all have a thing where your mind it knows what it is. Like, okay, that's supposed to be a jaguar. You don't want to mess with that. That's supposed to be a rhino and stuff like that. They do animal behavioral stuff like when a Thanator spooks the young one, it flies. It runs all the way back to the other rhinos who do like a circle formation. They're called hammer something, but it's escaping my head right now. So yeah. And yeah, they do a good job with the flora and fauna. I mean, one thing that makes me laugh is there seems to be a lot of underwater plants inspired stuff. Like there's those weird little curly, fleshy looking things that when you touch them, they just like, like the little anemones and stuff like that. And
I'm guessing a lot of Jane's time being submerged and see all these plant life. Say, wow, can you imagine if we could actually, get to like be up close and personal with these plants without having to be inside of a gigantic bubble like this?
yeah, what's funny about Jake is that being kind of young and being kind of not knowing much, he just takes an initiative and just touches lots of stuff that he comes into contact with in an almost comical manner. Like
Touch, don't touch.
When he
Touch, don't touch.
like I do love how Natiri calls him like a baby all the time. Noisy.
Touch. Ow! Do I have to follow you everywhere?
Yeah. So what's interesting is that they also have some strong actors for the other major members of the Omatakaya clan, with like Etukan being played by Louis Tooty. Tooty, he's a guy who was in Dances with Wolves, ironically, also a chief there, I think. And then there is
I wonder if that's what caused a lot of people to say like, "Hey, I think this feels like it's rip off of Dances with Wolves."
well, the thing with Dances with Wolves is about a Union soldier who ends up joining an Indian tribe. That's like the
A
lowdown.
Union soldier that has a limp leg, I
Yeah,
believe.
but again, I think that was not meant to be the direct parallel. I mean, and then of course you got TCH Pounder. She was Waller in one of the animated Suicide Squad things. She is she is Moat, the dragon lady, the shaman, spiritual leader of the Omatakaya, and she's the one that they're the one that did that funny thing where whenever someone gives their full name, they appropriate it as one word. So he called himself Jake Sully. They refer to him throughout the rest of the movie as Jake Sully.
Jixley.
Yeah, and we have Sute, one of my favorite, Nabis. He's a minor guy, but I mean, not not so minor in the clan, but he's the guy in every story where you're rooting for the underdog. You got that one guy who keeps saying he's not gonna do it, like he's that guy. But it's great when, and he's also Natiri's betrothed down the line. So when there is a
So wait, isn't he it almost sounds like the guy that's from Pocahontas is supposed to go to the lead girl, but
oh
then
Kokuwon.
then she had our eyes on the white boy there.
But that's why we kind of laugh at that moment when tensions are high, and Jake and Natiri had just consummated before the humans run over their sacred trees and stuff. And then she saw telling Sute to back off from beating up Jake, and he goes, "You mated with this woman?" And and even Grace is like, "Oh shit! Like you did what now?"
They could they could tell that.
Yeah. So he is great at being angry, but what's great is that humbling moment when Jake does pull off the impossible and comes back riding in on the Leonatrix on Taruk. Even he's like, "Well, I underestimated this Dreamwalker."
Yeah, he doesn't stick around very long. Even sadder is that he actually had a badass scene where he like just made chumps or change out of the military guys that were like uh, spec ops going in on their turf.
All it takes is just one good shot, though, man. In the comics and in the extended cut, though, he does survive his fall, but he's badly hurt, and he decides he wants to be taken out by the last shadow. So he allows Jake to, put a knife to like finish him in a ritual while doing the whole prayer of "With AWOL you go." Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But I think James thought, well, the death on the carrier, pretty much, it's cut forward and dry. He didn't need to extend it any longer because that would happen right after the whole Quaritch scene. Oh, and another thing I like about this movie that's funny is just when Quaritch goes into full bad guy mode, he just becomes like almost like a Terminator himself. There's a part when they're taking off, he just gets mad. He's like they're saying we got unauthorized takeoff. All he does is just throw down his clipboard, pick up some a soldier's machine gun, and he just kicks the door, and they go, "Oh God, mask, mask!" And he's just out there holding his breath for a long time while just shooting at the helicopter, and then pulls out a pistol. He's doing it the whole time without, because they say in 3 minutes that oxygen in Pandora will kill you. So the fact that he's holding his breath the whole time and just doing all this shooting and blasting, it's almost a bit badass and hilarious at the same time.
But yeah, no. Also, it's the fact that James really the reason why he had to design the world Pandora so different is because the entire ecosystem is in fact one single character.
Awa,
And,
yeah, the living goddess, the energy field that connects and binds all living things. It penetrates them. It binds them. It, you know.
surrounds us, penetrates, and binds the world together.
Yeah. Life makes it. So, oh god, it really is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Her energy surrounds us and binds us.
I'm just gonna sit that James listened to that speech and thought, okay, what if we had that, but it's like it was like the epicenter of an entire world's ecosystem. Ooh, that sounds nice. I'm gonna put that in my notes.
Well, yeah, and the so we have the Awa because even Grace is like dismissing like well, I don't really believe in fairy tales, so this but she respects that this is what the Oatakaya call the deity on their planet, that and that's connected in the trees and in the plant life, because every time she takes samples of the plant life it reacts like a synapse in a neuron or a nerve.
But the reason why everyone reveres it as a god is because it literally is like it would commune with the entire uh, fauna anyway, especially at the near climax at the end where like things start to get like really dark and at its lowest. The animal life just decided like, yeah, screw this. We're actually gonna take a stand too.
Yeah, because there's a great moment where and desperation, he's got 2,000 warriors because they had just destroyed the home tree, their thing. You know, a lot of Navi died, and Jake feels very responsible for it because he was feeding intel to the military while also, working on the science project in the Avatar body. And he becomes conflicted. And there's a point when he realizes, because they kept saying, your job is to go in there and find a carrot for these guys. Otherwise, it's going to be all stick over here. And when he does find out about their sacred trees and stuff like that, they go like, "Oh, we got about the balls with that one," and then because it says when he has to go tell the Navi that they're coming to destroy you and you guys have to move, he's all like, even he's saying, "I can't get the words out of my mind because he's learned to actually love the people and everything." So because they actually inducted him into the clan and everything, so it's like I'm part of your thing, and now I gotta help kick you out of your house.
Does sound kind of awkward. You phrase it like that.
Only get out of your house before we blow it up at C4 or whatever. I don't know. So he feels really bad. So when he comes back and gets rallies Navi support for we're gonna kick the Earthlings off for attacking us, he makes a prayer to the trees saying, "Can you give us an edge or something? Because if we don't stop these guys, they're going to keep on coming until eventually there's no green like there is on our homeworld." And there's also a great moment where Sigourney is the science character. She believes only in science and facts and readings. So when they have it, she gets fatally injured by Korat shooting at the helicopter. Uh, they have a crazy idea of possibly, because she had an avatar body, of transferring her consciousness full time into the avatar body. As Moat put it, she has to pass through the eye of Awa and come back to us.
And I feel like she could have made it, but then Grace just had to be like, "Oh wow, this is a whole new experience. I'm gonna stick with this. Screw the Avatar body. They're not gonna get much information from that."
Well, I think what's amazing is her last words, where it didn't quite take, but she says, "I see her. She's real." So in a way, she got to see the god of this world and realize it's not just some fairy tale that they used to, jump around from tree to tree. It's something tangible, and actually, seeing and being with it, that just seemed to like be a revelation for a scientist like hers.
And thankfully, not one that asked to require a starship.
What does God need a starship for? But
Didn't
so
answer his question. What does God need with a starship? Fire! Okay, he's gone.
so then, yeah. So I like how they pull out that with the glowing seeds. They're like spirits of Awa, the pure spirits. Like, because the Tyrion had Jake dead to rights. So was getting ready to like put an arrow through his sternum, but then the little petal just floats onto her arrow tip, and she's like suddenly reconsiders. Later, when Jake is trying to say, "Take me to your people," so that I can learn and all that stuff, and say, "Well, Sky people don't learn." She's all like saying, "Get out of here! Don't come back!" But then the seeds once again, sign from God itself coming down and coalescing with him. Where she's thinking, well, shit, if the spirits see something worthwhile in him, then maybe he should come with us. I do like that little detail of when he first meets the sprites, he tries to like slap one, and she's like, no, 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 you don't hit that. Yeah,
Are you sure? I don't want to touch the. Hey! Stop hitting the damn things!
yeah, cause but yeah, so that so in a way, because she's the thing with her is that she's a believer. She's very strong in AWA because whenever she has to like kill predators that in self defense, she still prays for them as she ends their life and sends their spirit with the AWA. So she's very devout. He's also devout in the story about how Awa brought Tarak Makto during times of great sorrow. So even though she was rightfully pissed at Jake for lying and letting the destruction of Home Tree happen, she admitted she was kind of emotional when she told him never to come back. When he came back with the Tarak Makto writing thing, that really seemed to make her think he did learn from me. He did listen, and this is the what our people need. So that's why she started to like finally say back to him, "I see you." Now, as explained in the movie, I see you is more than just I see you in front of me. It's like I'm seeing into your essence. I'm seeing into your soul. So when you say I see you, it's a big bonding connection thing for the Navi. So yeah, uh, she she's the one that tells him that Awa only does stuff for the balance of the world, not picking sides or anything like that. So
Yeah, until our uh, gun-toting humans really showed how much of an ass they were, and he was like, "Yeah, yeah, fuck this." Like, I'm sure not everyone on your planet is like this, but these guys really need a swift kick in the ass.
yeah. So it's a great moment when all looks lost, heroes are dying and everything like that. Next thing you know, you see them saying we got movement coming in and there's like stampedes coming at them, all the wildlife is rebelling, all the ikrans come from the sky. It is a great moment. That's why it's a big deal when Natiri shouts with elation, Awa has heard you. Like that is literally a prayer being answered right there.
Hmm.
So another great thing is that a funny detail people like to make fun of is the fact that the Navi have a strange appendage in their ponytails that has a tendril that allows for the shahelu, the bonding with their horses, with their ikrans, with the local
It,
wildlife of Navi.
it, it's like makes you wonder. It's like you think it's possible for a Navi to ride. Uh, I don't know what it's called, but it's like one of the saber tooth looking, uh, prowler looking type beasts.
I think it was a Thanator, the big panther that chased Jake through the forest the first time.
Yeah, Thanator.
Yeah, it turns out, yeah, it is. During the AWA scene, Stampede scene, the Thanator shows up, and even the tears like, oh shit. But then the Thanator has a look of like, get on.
Oh yeah, it does have. That's sorry, I forgot about that. That was like the most epic thing that happened in that.
Oh yeah, and then the another thing that's great about the like they also use that to like bond with their tree of souls, so they get to like hear the tendrils and actually hear actual memories and stuff that's been uploaded on there.
We really literally say upload. There's like they can actually manage to save their consciousness and their memories into them, which is why when the Navi pass on, it's like just like pretty much just treating like returning the mortal body back to uh, the world while their mind and consciousness get to
Be with the great one.
be with. Yep.
Yeah, so like I said, all energy is borrowed, and you have to return it. That's what the philosophy is. So that like a circle of life thing. So now one great
Uh,
moment. Yeah.
I was gonna say, speaking of circle of life, I guess we should mention that uh, the one thing that was like nice change of pace after like years of waiting for anything to come off after this was the addition of Pandora, the World of Avatar, in the Animal Kingdom.
Oh yes, Disney's Animal Kingdom. No, Disney bought the rights for Nick Cameron to do something for Disney World with Avatar, the license.
I guess it's funny looking back. People were going like, "What the hell does this have to do with Disney?"
And now
And they
Disney.
said Star Wars is being added in long before that deal happened, and now Disney owns Fox, so it's now like I don't see any arguments now.
Yeah, they had a ride based off of the flight with the Banshee flight, and they had a flight of paradise they called it, and they had a roller coaster, and they had a walk through part of the animal kingdom that has like recreates some of the flora and fauna of Pandora.
Right down to seeing the Hallelujah Mountains, like I haven't. It's like a typical theme park thing. It's like the illusion, uh, distance illusion thing. So the floating islands look like they're far away when really they're about like I don't know what, like 6 feet tall, really.
But yeah, but like I said, the Imagineering really works with there, and it's kind of funny that James Cameron had no idea the deal would go through or even happen. He just said, "Well, they offered to do this for Avatar, and I figured, oh, why not?" And going back to the movie real quick, the Hallelujah Mountains was a great moment because there's a part when they say they have to relocate because Jake's been going back and forth between working with scientist guys, talking with the colonel. So they figured, well, let's get out of Dodge, and they actually get to go up to the mountains. And there's a great moment where you first see it. It's like a big old '70s album cover with like the mountains are just rocks are just floating there, man. And I think that's where the Banshees also reside. So that's where when Jake has to do his after he made a clean kill, he has to go do his first bonding experience with the Nikran. It's actually pretty funny. Which it goes, you have to wait for him to choose you, and then you got to make the bond and fly. That'll do the whole thing. So how do I know if he chooses me? Oh yeah, he's just gonna try to kill you. Outstanding. And it's so funny because I think Ikrans are actually kind of skittish because most of them would just roar, and if you get too close, they would just say like, "Okay, never mind, not me, not me." And then, so when you get that one that's like looking at him funny, and then he's like trying like, "Are we gonna do this all day? I got all day," and they just start wrestling. I like that thing's very expressive. There's a great moment where after, things went to pot and Jake has to like find Taruk Makto, the Taruk. There's a funny part where because that thing almost got eaten by it in an earlier scene. So when Jake's all like, "I got an idea, but you're not gonna like it." So there's a part when, as it looks down, it makes it nervous, like, and it's even its eye looks down like, "Are you crazy? We're not going on top of that thing." And he says, "Hey, he's the biggest cat in the sky. You never have to look up, right? That's just a theory." But I like how the Ikran had a little bit of a like expression like oh hell no look on his face when Jake's all like no 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 we're gonna fly over this guy and we're gonna catch him. So the one of the moments that does stick out for people and I really do is a moment when the hammer comes down when after all the negotiating has failed and they figured yeah time to flush him out. Uh, you know,
Oh, wait. I think another way to phrase it is that the negotiations were short.
yes, they were short. Yeah, what's interesting was how diplomacy has failed. They send a whole armada of helicopters and a big old jet, and they just like blast a tree, and it's downright sad. Even people who are not fans of the movie admit when they first see this scene, it does get to you when all the Navi just start crying and holding each other, seeing what remains of their home after the thing comes down and crushes
And
all the
why
houses.
and why does this suddenly feel too close to home? Oh dear.
It was funny. I just thought I'm all like, I was rewatching it very recently, and I went, "Oh shit, this is a 9/11 moment." Because I mean, that's how it felt. Because I remember that day and videos and images from that day, and I don't think James was intentionally trying to like ape that, but it's such a shorthand.
Let's just say he probably definitely had to look back on research mostly to see the people's reactions
Because it's
to
very
that.
because you feel for the Navi when they're like just downtrodden that they're one home has been devastated, and then it's sold by Zoe Saldana, making those cries of hers, and it is a very big moment, and even Jake's like, yeah, I fucked up because everyone's mad at him. The place got destroyed. They won't listen to him, and then back at home, they're like ripping them out of their pods to say like you're under arrest and stuff like that. So that does feel like a low point. I even joked to Derek because right after he says sometimes you gotta wake up. They show the Navi evacuating, then it just goes to black, fades to black, and I said, imagine if the credits rolled right there.
Ah, that would have been the worst thing to have to try to get back off of for the past 10 years.
Yeah, but yeah. So okay, that then the final battle. It's very hilarious because they're gonna turn a depot shuttle into a bomber, and they have like these big old gas canisters. There's a kind of humorous moment. I feel kind of bad, but there's a moment when Jake manages to throw a grenade into the exhaust port and it starts losing altitude, and there's a guy who's like trying to push the thing off, ends up falling back, and then the thing comes and gets him like a bug. And he has it all while doing like a big whap whap boom, and the whole thing explodes.
Yep.
But the best part was when friggin' Stephen Lang sees Jake on his wing, and he decides to actually like mask. No, he doesn't. He doesn't even mask up. Once again, he just goes out in the open air and starts shooting with this toxic air all around him. Misses Jake, and then Jake blows a torpedo into the helicopter, and he decides while on fire, getting into his mech suit, and this like twisted version of the Aliens music starts playing, like heroic aliens. It's more menacing for him, and he's like getting into his mech suit while on fire. He even notices it and puts it up. It's just a moment. I it ends in what looks like the most badass shot where like you see the mech jump down, crouch, and then like the whole ship blows up behind the mech as it gets up again. You're just saying like, I'm not like, how can you not love a moment like that?
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty much as people like to joke, it's the final boss part of the game where like if you're in an '80s game and you get to the final boss, you'll suddenly come in like in some big ass robot suit. I mean, just like a Sonic and Doctor Robotnik. And it's a multi-layered boss fight because you would hurt him and injure his canopy dome, and he'll eject that and have a second more exposed mode, and you're realizing, oh god, it really is kind of a boss fight in a video game type logic in this final moment. Now, someone did bring up a good point. Now, there were some that were arguing that this movie furthered a very distasteful trope called the white savior complex, where you would have like these poor minority masses that don't know what to do or without or rudderless, and you get this fair skinned guy comes in and helps show him the way. That's the white savior trope. And someone who of color was doing a recent review of I'm the only guy who likes Avatar, and he said people call it that. It's not, because think about it. Jake actually fails. Like, it's not him that. It was actually the planet fighting back, and it was Neteri who took out the bad guy in the end. So, yeah, Jake brought the people together, but he wasn't like the I'm your only savior in this thing. So that throws that narrative out the window. And I'm like, oh, good defense of that. I said, but another great moment I like is right after the whole boss fight thing. James just keeps adding like the tension. There's a part where they're fighting right next to the sleeping pods, and you're afraid that oh god he's gonna like smash it before Jake can get to it, and then he ends up breaking the window and the oxygen starts getting thinner anyway. So every now and then Jake would like hop in and out of his bodies. You're like oh shit. And then when they finally kill Quaritch, there's a great moment where Natiri is like shaking his avatar body while his human body is like trying to get a mask inside, and then she finally gets inside the place and puts the mask on. And it's such a cute moment where this guy was like her size in as a Navi is just little puny frail thing that's cradled in her arms, and she just finally tells him I see you, and you go like I couldn't help but go ah every time I see that moment, man. I've seen this movie a couple of times, and I'll still always go ah when that moment happens. I can't explain it. So this thing we ended up making a lot of money lots and lots of money. It's huge to the point where even back then people started asking the question: is this thing probably overrated? And if to answer for that question, I recommend watching James Rolfe's Cinemassacre's video, "Is Avatar Overrated?" where he breaks it down in a concise way. And too long, don't read. It's not, but it was probably overhyped for people to hear. Like it made the most money in the world. People were seeing it repeatedly, so it makes you wonder: does it live up to that hype or not? That varies up to you.
Yeah, right. Because overrated means that everyone loves it, but could it wasn't exactly a darling to everyone to the point where a lot of people are saying, "Oh, it's overrated." So, like, how can something be overrated if everyone's saying it's overrated?
Well,
Wouldn't that make it be underrated
yeah,
instead?
it was so overrated it became underrated somehow.
It's like a never-ending paradox.
So like and then they also James Cameron was announcing he was making sequels for this thing. I was in high school, finishing high school when the Avatar came out, and I was hearing in college like, oh, they're going to be doing more of these things, and I'm like waiting, and waiting, and well, 13 years later here we are, but still, a lot of research and development, but. In the meantime, this movie had been re-released a couple of times because the 3D was just so crazy. Like, for you, when did you catch this movie back then?
Hmm?
Like, for you, when did you first catch this movie back then?
Uh, I think I caught it when it was like coming out because I was just kind of curious about the whole thing. But then it was like, oh, that was a new movie. It just moved on to the next thing, I guess.
Yeah. It's funny because Sam Worthington followed up the next year with Clash of the Titans, with Ray Fiennes as Hades and Liam Neeson as Zeus. God, that had a kick-ass trailer though with the burning the worm and that scene with the scorpion and everything. But yeah, uh, so the thing was, it got re-released again like in 2010. Then it got re-released again for a while, that for like the anniversary or something, and then it stopped. And James was in full development for the next sequels to the point where he was like rewriting scripts, doing scripts, and doing scripts. It's gotten to the point where when Nights come out now, and every time Derek reads about Cameron's plans, he has to stop and go, "Is the guy feeling all right?"
Uh, it's, and it's okay. So there was a point where I was like hoping to see more, but then it's like when you reach a point where you're making a movie for 7 years, like part of you just goes like, "There's no." It's now I'm definitely not going to see it because it's been built up too much. And now what? He's like thinking up of like 6 or 7 sequels for this thing. It's like, okay, not even George Lucas in his craziest like daydreams even went that far.
As far as we know, but yeah. But so I still remember when Avatar 2 was announced to come out finally in 2018, and in 2020. And then 2020 happened, and that was not going to happen for sure, with 2020 happening the way that it did.
Whoops.
And then, the point is, dates, it got to the point where it joked, I'll believe it when I see a trailer, for crying out loud. And when we finally did get a trailer this year, man, that's when I got super excited.
But you got super excited. I was like, oh, they finally got it made. That's
Yeah.
neat.
Like, so what are your thoughts going in on this one? Because tonight will be the last night that we could call Avatar a singular movie before the franchise officially gets a new entry after 13 years tomorrow.
I mean, good for it. It's like I don't want to like dampen your parade, but it wasn't exactly like my top list of like most anticipated things to see. If anything, like it was like the top of my list was essentially like Sonic 2 and Halloween Ends.
And those came and went. So this is kind of just there of, you know,
Like, oh, I guess it's a nice, fun way to cap off the year. Like, okay, so like my Facebook timeline like reminded me like a year ago I announced, okay, I'm taking an exodus from Facebook. There's no way I'm going to be spoiled by No Way Home. So see you all. I'm just gonna go hide my head in the sand. I am not making that same declaration for Way of Water. If I find a spoiler in the internet, that sucks. But it's not gonna like break me. It's like, God, I wish I could have actually seen that. Why
Well,
would you motherfuckers put that there?
well, plus it's a 3 hour movie. A lot could happen in it.
Oh yeah, and the fact it's a 3 hour movie and like Cameron, I'm I'm sure it's probably just another like, oh, I took that out of context, but he's like, oh, no big deal. It's like you'll come back and see it again like the next time.
It was kind of his
It's like,
joke. He said,
but
yeah,
it's
because
my
but
counter's like, I'm. But what if they come back and they have that exact same time where they need to go to the bathroom at the same moment again?
he did say that one of his things about length was that, I mean, he tried his best to winnow the story, but he thought this was the best that he could get it. So he did say that one of the things that inspired him for this time was the fact that he wouldn't have a problem with the 3 hour thing, was that streaming habits have changed people's viewing habits. Like he says, one of his daughters like put up a Netflix show that's like 8 episodes long, and each episode's an hour, and they would sit through the whole thing straight sometimes. So I've seen people do that binge all the time. So I don't want to hear too much. Well, I think it's possible, and there were times when we had the 3 hour epic, like Ben Hur or Lawrence of Arabia or the Ten Commandments, stuff like that. So it's been a while.
But like even when you and I watch like long movies, like one of us is like on the verge, is, like holding in, is like, oh, I really need to go, but I don't want to miss like this part. Ugh.
The only movie I would say that I had a problem with while doing our long viewing was the extended Return of the King cut.
Where it's just the ending is just cat and cat say, okay, we get it. Everyone is leaving. Everyone's having a happy ending. Can we please roll the credits already? God damn it.
No, but like I said, we sat through. I think we sat through Justice League no problem. Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Okay, but we had to have a mental like gymnastics to get through that.
And then
And plus, it was like a streaming only entity. So and also when you and I did it, we actually implemented an intermission, a self-imposed intermission to do for ourselves.
what about when we Endgame?
Oh my god, Endgame almost nearly kept destroying my bladder every time I watched the damn thing.
In theaters?
In theaters and at home.
I mean, that's why whenever we do our catch up to Marvel stuff, let's get to the end part where the characters that matter show up. I think
Yeah,
the only time we had to do the full movie recently was for Thor, because he's in a good chunk of the movie.
exactly.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like I said, I'm pretty confident. The last time a movie really tested my bladder's patience with anything was one of the Transformers movies. I think it was last night. I think, and I did not. I did not. I mean, I think I ran right for the bathroom after she said Unicron, and then they cut to the regular credits coming up. Okay, that's it. I definitely gotta go. But yeah, Eternals I had no problem with. That was almost borderline long, and then Wakanda Forever, no problems whatsoever, man. And those are like 15 minutes shy of the 3 hour marker. So I mean, we'll see. I won't fault you if you do go and you say I missed this part because I had to go because this thing's too
No,
fucking.
I'm sticking to the stipulation. Unless this thing like blows my mind the fuck up to the point where I actually do want to go. I'm not going to re-watch the damn thing just because I missed back through. If I miss it, I can just Google the damn thing, look up the Wikipedia, and see like what little snippets I missed.
Yeah, that's why I said I won't fault you if that's the route you end up going.
Like I'm not giving the man like extra money just because I don't have the ability to press rewind or pause.
But that's not the goal. And what's funny, I think that made me laugh too in the lead up to Way of Water is all the interview snippets coming out. that make for very eye-catching headlines, and they're going. But if you listen to it, that's not what. No, like one that got a lot of people like simmered, and I went like actually because I actually listened to this thing was him talking about how Marvel and DC helped him, get the effects for Way of Water done because of they keep the effects houses employed and they keep hiring new people because of all the volume of work coming in to make 3 or 4 Marvel movies a year. So and he says like Weta workshop, he's like Thanos. I mean, come on, give me a break. Like that, that's amazing. But the stuff we have here now doesn't even come close. So that's what he was trying to say. But people always like to say James Cameron shits on Thanos to prove a point. I'm all like, that's not a. No, you're doing that Scooby Doo thing where I think Cool Still sucks.
No.
Yeah, but
Uh,
yeah. So anyway, but I'm beyond excited. You knew I've been excited since that damn trailer came out. Hell, I was excited that the announcement of the trailer was even coming. If you remember.
but I am just saying that, bro. Come 2024, we're probably gonna be on different sides of the fence.
No, no, no. I'll give it to the hedgehog on that one, man. I mean, come on. If it's got Amy Rose in it, then forget it, man. That's game over, man.
What if it also has Rouge the Bat?
Then you're gonna be seeing a lot of interesting gentlemen at the premieres. But I mean, come on, it's Shadow the friggin' Hedgehog. I mean, every kid in the 2000s who's now an adult will be like, oh shit, the guy from Sonic Adventure Battle 2.
You still remember a lot of the cheering from the first premiere nights of that tease.
Oh yeah. Hell, someone was even going, yes, even before you said, we did up some articles from 50 years ago. They already knew what that meant once they said 50 years. So yeah, I understand that Avatar, the Seed Bearer, clashing with Sonic might be a bit of a thing, but I think there's room in my itinerary for both.
I will find it funny if like James find out that his movie got like trounced by a blue hedgehog. He's like, oh, so they'll go for this blue guy, but not my blue guys.
Well, they probably wouldn't go for the blue guy if they still kept their original. I mean, by the way, he made a comment about some of the people he fought with on Dark Fate. He says the filmmakers were high on their own supply. And I would buy that about Tim Miller, given that this is the guy who thought that Sonic's initial design would be beloved. He was the one that pushed for it.
Meow.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm pretty sure that it must have been Ryan Reynolds' magic that made Deadpool work when Tim Miller was in charge of it.
Well, just for the first one, then like got shoot out for the guy that did John Wick.
Well, yeah, because like I said, I think maybe Ryan had such a hard time working with Tim, they decided I can't have that same fight on Deadpool too, so let's get another guy. Yeah. And now we got the guy who did Free Guy doing Deadpool 3 for Disney with Logan coming back, so that's exciting. And he promised in-your-face violence in this one.
Oh, that's gonna be fun to see how Disney handles the marketing for that.
Mm-hmm. It would be so funny every time Deadpool's about to cut somebody, they just slap a big old Mickey Mouse sticker ears over the bloody spots.
It's like, hey, no, get that out of here. Deadpool rips it off. It's like, okay, let's do that in an instant replay without this little gimmick here.
But yeah, and I know you're more on the skeptic side when it comes to Way of Water. Not like you don't want it to fail or bomb, but you wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't quite land.
It's I don't have like I kind of lost faith in it. It was essentially like a whole you remember the story of like the boy who cried wolf where they tell the whole thing over and over and over. It's like something's gonna happen, but nothing's ever happened. And you reach the point, it's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Then cue the Muppet song. Who do you think you're fooling here?
yeah. Tell that to the people who keep saying that Darkseid's gonna come back, man. I want to keep telling them, who do you think you're fooling with that sentiment? Yeah. So,
But I mean, now that it is coming here, I had to like do the most I'm essentially like feeling like I'm fresh off the market to come back into this thing. Like I don't had to relearn like uh certain story beats, had to relearn like certain like terms and like mythology and lore and all that. It's essentially like having to dust off an old math book and go like, okay, no, see, this is how math is done. Like not that Common Core bullshit.
Goodness, even Incredibles made a joke about that.
Say math is math.
So I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure um, that that's kind of what James is banking on. That people who say I remember that movie and rediscover it and say I want to see it too. Like that's what he's figuring on because you get for years people saying nobody cares about Avatar. It left such a little footprint. Like if nobody cared about it back then, and what's with the that number that only got unseated by Avengers 7 years later, and Avengers gave it back when they did re-releases and stuff. But point is, this mattered for some people. That goes beyond our little film circle. It's easy to be in our little echo bubbles and hear people say the same thing of this thing's already going to fail and all that stuff. But the common people, like I know people at work are saying they want to go see this, and they're not like the biggest movie people, but they go that new Avatar because they remember liking the first one. So I think that's the kind of market he's banking on, and we'll
And,
see.
and plus, I'm sure I'll be able to get through. It's like, what? There's barely anything going on in January besides what that
Megan,
killer like Megan. I keep having tease our friend Meg about that. It's like, oh, look, it's your movie. Like I even stylized her Christmas card envelope to look like the logo. So that'll be funny to see if, when she gets it.
okay, yeah, and then yeah,
By the way, I only just learned that the actress is actually a 12-year-old girl who's like doing all the dancing and like all the acting with that. And it's like, oh, that's really neat.
it's
And I
kind of
actually
like
want to
a body
watch it to
performer,
support that.
like a body performer. Like she's really good at like her movements and everything, right?
Yeah,
Almost
I
like
was watching like behind the scenes. It's like she was just going at it. It's like one continuous shot of her dancing that you see
so
in the trailers.
So they just need like a little extra, like just a little stuff makeup here and there to make her look non-human.
Yeah.
It's great. So yeah, and I know, and I'm pretty sure if it does not quite live up, people will say, "Haha, I see, I told you." But I think that even if it doesn't open big, as long as it runs, because the first Avatar only opened up to like 70 mil as its first takeaway on the first day. I think that would be considered what happened, what went wrong thing back then. This is pre-COVID, by the way. This is like 13 years ago. But over time, it just kept doing enough business to keep going and going until it eventually climbed worldwide up to a billion. So we don't. I know times are different now with the advent of pandemic times and theaters and markets, some being open and closed. But I'm not expecting this thing to light the world on fire the same exact way because you can't do lightning in a bottle twice. But I just want. I'm looking forward to returning to this because James Cameron has poured a lot of his imagination and soul and heart into this thing, and I want to at least support that as a fellow artist myself. And it just because I had so much fun with the first time years ago, I figured, well, why not? So I've always been happy. Like I make a giddy in theaters whenever we watch a movie trailer, and they pop up that Avatar trailer. So I'm definitely I'm not a guy who would paint myself blue or know the words and the language right away at the bat. I'm not that deep into it, but I appreciate the guy's filmography enough, as explained in our build up to him. I appreciate the stuff he's attempting to do and the people he's working with here. That I think one of the big innovations of Way of Water is the fact that they perfected mocapping water with people in mocap who's in water, so they're not just animating the water; they're realistically looking like they're in the water or stuff like that this time around. So,
Hmm.
and from what we've seen so far in some of the previews, it looks amazing. So, I'm looking forward to my screening this weekend. I would have done it tomorrow, but holiday obligations come up, which Derek the joke. It's funny how these guys put this stuff on the holidays, thinking, "Oh, people will come see it," until the holidays actually happen, where you're too busy to do shit. Where can you find time to fit in a 3-hour movie, right?
Not only that, but they're actually like really interesting holiday movies like actually coming out that it's like, oh, we can watch that to get ourselves in an effective spirit, like a freaking musical with Buddy the Elf and Deadpool teaming up, or freaking David Harbour being a diehard Santa Claus.
Or that those guys saw the robot Santa from Futurama and thought let's make a movie out of that.
That one was crazy.
That's great to hear. So yeah, things are the landscape has changed because James Cameron's Avatar happened before MCU, before big franchise films had like taken the hold of the thing. So we don't know if how it'll live in that kind of environment. If he'll sustain enough to do. I think part three will still happen because he's already filmed like a good chunk of that, so you would have to just finish it. But everything else beyond that, we'll have to wait and see on reaction. Even he said that. But he's enjoyed making these things. These things are a big part of his life and the big his baby and stuff. So I'm looking forward to the rest of the world to see what that looks like. And so far, all the thumbnails I've seen have been pretty enthusiastic. So that's what the big quote being unlike anything you've ever seen before. So hopefully there won't be no people saying that this is just Waterworld or this is just Free Willy.
Actually, if that was the case, like people would be saying like, so what? You're saying you'd rather watch Waterworld than this? Ah, okay, you got to point it there.
Yeah. Okay. Now before we fly off on this, I do want to say right now, a lot of trailers are coming out for movies coming out next year. And one that's got my attention is this movie 65 that Derek showed me that features Adam Driver from Star Wars fame being a astronaut or spaceman that crashes a ship with only one survivor on a planet full of dinosaurs 65 million years ago.
And it's definitely treating the dinosaurs as an actual threat, especially considering the fact that the writers are the same guys that did The Quiet Place.
Yep, and Sam Raimi's producing it, and I seem really interested. But I think my number one anticipated movie of next year actually is the Super Mario movie, man. I don't know why. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Oh man, they show the clip from the VGAs. That one just like made me go like, well, shit! Thank God they didn't put this in the same fucking year as Sonic 2.
But yeah, but I mean,
like originally it was supposed to come out like this month.
damn.
So yeah, if you thought Avatar trying to go against the actual holiday movies was gonna be rough, going against this thing,
Oh, forget it.
game over, man. Game over.
So that I'm looking forward to. Rise of the Beast has my interest too because Transformers. I mean, come on, I love those things.
That plus it's most of the Beast Wars thing. Actually, Nick from Game Apologist is more excited because he grew up more on Beast Wars than like regular Transformers and just
So
seeing.
that's me too. So Optimus Primal. I think he would have loved it more if instead of Ron Perlman, it was Gary Kalk reprising his role as Optimus Primal.
Yeah, but I mean it's Ron Perlman. Like,
Yeah.
if you gotta replace like a beloved fan favorite actor, it's like at least get an actor that everyone fucking loves.
And you got Michelle Yeoh playing Airazor, so that's going to be amazing. So, and then the other movie on my anticipated list is Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny because Harrison Ford looks like he's having the time of his life making this. And it's,
I do always keep cocking my head that everyone keeps like mocking the title of Dial of Destiny. Like you like you I mean what's so funny? It could be alluding to like a an ancient sundial or something.
and then there is, of course, like I said, James Mangold will actually be directing it. It'll be the first indie film not directed by Steven Spielberg since he had to pass on it while making another. He tried to make it work, but his schedule got so busy, so I don't have enough energy commitment to do this. So he gave his blessing to James Mangold, who directed Logan, Ford v Ferrari. This guy is a top talent director, so I have all the confidence in him in this one.
Well, if it's anything alluded, it'll be the first and last time that Indy would be directed by someone other than Steven Spielberg.
Yeah. Also, John Williams will be retiring with his score for this movie, so yeah. And then Guardians of the Galaxy 3 looks damn right down funny. I mean, heartfelt, but I laughed my ass off when Drax threw the dodgeball at the little sheep kid. And the other part was all like saying that, okay, we'll kill everyone who gets in our path. No, we won't kill anybody. No, okay, well then we'll kill the. Wait, now you're just sounding desperate. Well, then one man, yeah. Oh, and oh god, the holiday special for Guardians of the Galaxy was so perfect, man. That thing was amazing.
I cried at the ending. Like, how would you not?
Yeah. And he, so do you want to help save Peter's Christmas, or do you want the little, what do you want? Save his Christmas, or do you want to do the little funny man? Then he goes, I want the little funny man.
No.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I didn't realize we had a chatter. I'll read them out. I'm sorry, but yeah. So he said, this is Werewolf River, my good friend Ian. He's also joined us on the show a couple of times. He said that what's funny about this movie is that it convinced me that I love mech suits. And I worried for years that such a thing proved that I didn't get the right message from this movie. But upon watching this movie, I think the human technology adds something to this movie. And I can't quite explain it, but the human tech is very well thought out and creatively designed, and it didn't need to be. And when you mentioned the ride, I went on the Navi River ride. It had an animatronic Navi shaman that was so real it was kind of scary. And when the
I
yeah.
no, keep going. I was gonna back up on his idea of like the human technology. It's like obviously taking. It's almost like James Cameron look at like what he did for Aliens. It's like, okay, let's do that, but like let's really like streamline it where it doesn't look imposing or threatening.
Oh yeah. So he said when the colonel got out of the burning building and everything, he said Mike said when that scene happened, my brother yelled out, "Why won't you die?" Yeah. So he had to go, but
Also, I wouldn't be surprised if these mechs help inspire Titanfall.
oh yeah. What's funny is people were saying the mechs were a rip off of the armored units that they were using in Matrix, but I think it's just very coincidental to design, not that they were ripping each other off.
Eh, like it's got a cockpit window. It's like
If anything, I think that was homaging anime mecha, and and the anime mecha referencing that was probably referencing Aliens as Power Loader. So hmm. Anyway, yeah. So I think that we said what we needed to say about what we thought of the
oh,
old movie.
dude, you seriously got not gonna bring up a certain someone arriving in the city of dreams, the Big Apple.
Oh, right. The trailer for Scream 6, confirmed 6, has come out. And it shows a scene that got scary real fast, where, like, it's Halloween night, you're in there, people in costumes, and there's a ghost face,
Actually,
stalking.
several ghost faces.
I think this goes
One,
back to that
oh,
unused idea from 3, I think, that they wanted to do before the script changed.
yeah, it was gonna be free.
The whole cult
And
of Stu with the other ghost faces.
but I don't know. It's funny. It's literally just one scene, but like, I'd say it's two scenes, but it's like literally in the same setting. It's in the subway train. One obviously is just the jump scare at the end before the titles, but the one scene that like really terrified me to my core is the fact that you see the characters, they're in a crowded subway train. It's Halloween. Everyone's in costume. And there's a ghost face. And there's another say, okay, so there's people that are dressed up just like Ghostface, except some of them are staring at them. That you could probably try to shrug it off and say, well, like if people are somewhere just looking around, waiting, and then there's one that's just literally just standing right in the middle of the crowd, in public daylight, just like you see the wheels turn. It's like, oh, the many ways that could gut and slice you.
Yeah, and so I mean the only thing is that yeah, Nev probably won't be in this one because of the whole contract negotiation falling through, and they won't pay her what she was worth. So, but then the directors admitted that they really wanted to work with her, but her leaving did make them have to rethink their whole story direction. But they're going to have fun with the legacy characters still involved. Like, we're getting
Yep.
Kirby!
And plus, when you think about it, it's like this is probably a good chance for them to try to branch off for Sydney. There comes a point where like you
Hasn't she been
gotta
through enough?
well, that's that. And you gotta understand it's like if you want to actually get this like really high potential franchise off the ground, you gotta break away from like familiar trappings because otherwise you're just gonna be sitting there expecting like Cindy to go through the motions, expect her to survive because if she dies, you fucking riot and say like this franchise doesn't understand what it's supposed to stand for and all that bullshit.
Yeah. So, at least Courtney will still be involved.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, and I think that's there's a few other things. Creed 3 looks amazing. Uh,
Oh yeah, that's.
Across the Spider Verse, I thought we were the good
Oh
guys.
my god.
We are. You're like, oh shit, Oscar Isaacs. How is it that you make me fall in love with you more with the more movies you do, man?
And one detour, it's the newest video game they announced that Jedi Survivor just gets me like tingles and excited, just like it'll be coming off just literally after my Florida trip. It'll be like, okay, I literally just got to be in Star Wars. Now it's time to actually get to slice and dice like I'm in Star Wars.
Yeah, and you were surprised at the confirmed existence of a Justice League game coming. That threw you for a loop.
Like it, like so soon too. It's like, are you guys didn't want to make an appearance at the VGAs, or you were just like in the sidelines?
Speaking of which, next year we're supposed to be getting that Frontiers of Pandora game that was supposed to come out with this movie, but it got delayed.
So it's basically in that weird flux where it might come out next year, but let's face it, a lot of games that were supposed to come out this year got delayed to next year. So it's probably possible that this game is just going to be coming out 2024.
Yeah, I started playing that Avatar game from the 360 from 9 years ago, 13 years ago, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. But part of me is going, this looks good now, but oh my god, on PS5 and Xbox S, how that new Frontiers of Pandora is going to look, and it's first person and stuff, man. Like even you, who are not the biggest Avatar fan, when you did see that preview, you says, okay, that actually might be kind of cool.
I mean, it's like obviously it's gonna be flying around on like the Ecrons and all that. It's like, how am I supposed to say no to that?
Yeah. So like, I'm looking forward to that game when it comes out finally too. So all right. So I think we've rambled all we can. You know, I managed to get through that without hacking out my entire lungs the entire time. And you've been a pretty good guest so far.
Thanks.
All right, and so anything else you want to add to anything?
No.
Alrighty then. So I guess we will talk formally about Way of Water when it finally comes out. We have our screenings when our schedules finally align. I'll get all those Spidey Summer stuff finished and ready for you to review. And I guess we'll probably might do a fun little holiday thing with Casey. We'll see. Uh, we'll see what happens as the saying goes. So I guess until next time, everybody. You'll have a good evening. Thank you for listening to us. This has been a ramble. I'm JoseCast89, aka Chris, signing off with my usual co-host Derek, aka Dark Neon.
See you soon, and also happy holidays.
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah.
All right, take care.